There we go. It's being recorded. Awesome. Again, thank you all for joining us. My name is Pamela Shide. I am part of the Digital Inclusion Week National Planning Team. I'm also the Training and Community Engagement Manager with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And we are so happy that you are here. We're excited to talk about Digital Inclusion Week, what resources are available for you. And let's dive into how the next hour and a half is going to be spent. All right, just admitting some new folks here as they're all trickling along. Welcome, welcome everybody. So for our hour and a half, this is going to be our agenda. We're going to start off with doing a Digital Inclusion Week intro, just so that you can know, how to participate, what folks have done in the past, what resources are available for you. And then after that, we're going to jump right into our panel discussion. Our first panel will be with our National Planning Committee members, and it's for folks who are more so newly getting involved in Digital Inclusion Week. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a new organization. It can be that this is just your first time participating with Digital Inclusion Week. And if so, welcome. Our panel is going to be perfect for you. We're going to be giving tips on how to plan your first Digital Inclusion Week event, planning on a budget, getting leadership buy-in, and of course, there's going to be a section where you can ask your questions. So please put your questions in the Q&A chat. That way our team can better capture all of them and make sure that your questions are getting answered. And then after that panel, we're going to just briefly review the Digital Inclusion Week 2024 toolkits that are available for you to help you plan your event. They are on our website, they are live, so go ahead and grab them and I will talk more about what's available for you and what resources are available there. And then the last part of our time together will be our second panel. So that'll be focusing on elevating your Digital Inclusion Week event. And again, we have our co-chairs from our Digital Inclusion Week National Planning Committee that will be speaking there. And you're going to learn how to get funding for your Digital Inclusion Week event. So also this is great for newbies, getting that funding, how to get that funding. Also strategies on how to elevate your Digital Inclusion Week event, partnerships that were crucial for success, and then of course, a Q&A portion as well. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the Q&A chat and we'll get started. All right, so NDIA, for those who are not familiar with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, we are a nonprofit and we help advance digital equity by supporting community programs like you all and equipping policymakers to act. We represent and serve more than 1,800 US affiliates, including tribal entities, organizations in all 50 states, including territories like American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands for affordable broadband, access to devices, digital skills training, and support. And we have knowledge sharing forums like our monthly community calls, our really popular listserv, and working group meetings. So please use all of these channels for planning out your Digital Inclusion Week event. If you have questions about Digital Inclusion Week, go ahead and drop it in the listserv, and I know our community will help you, and the National Planning Committee will also help you there. And we take what we're seeing from these knowledge forum platforms and we create our advocacy tools and make sure that we align with helping you do your work on the ground. All right, so Digital Inclusion Week, what is it? Well, first off, it's an annual week of awareness, recognition, and celebration, and it's always held on the first week of October. This year, October is like, what is the first week? Because October 2nd is like on a Thursday or something. So this year, it's going to be October 7 through 11. And organizations and individuals across the country host special events and campaigns to promote and increase digital equity in their communities. And this year, the theme is Stronger Together, Mobilizing Towards Sustainability. We want to focus on how we can leverage partnerships, collaboration, and making sure that this digital equity movement continues, and really focusing on that sustainability piece, because we can't do this work alone, I'm sure, as you all have known. So this year is our 8th year of Digital Inclusion Week. It's powered by the National Digital Inclusion Alliance and our amazing Digital Inclusion Week National Planning Committee. So there are plenty of ways to get involved. whether you are an organization, a nonprofit, a community program, a government entity, or even an individual, simply posting about Digital Inclusion Week, as an individual, if you support digital inclusion, sharing about the digital divide in your community, that is a way to participate in Digital Inclusion Week. And last year, we had 503 organizations and 687 people take action, and we want to see that increase this year as well. So as you can see on the right side, throughout, as the years grow on, more people have taken actions, more organizations have participated, and we can't wait to see what it's going to look like this year. All right, so just a little glance of how things looked like last year. So Digital Inclusion 2023, again, 503 participating organizations, agencies, cities, and tribes took action. They hosted events. There was over 2,600 mentions on Twitter and social media. And on top of that, it grew internationally, right? Before it was kind of just focused within the country, but we've seen 14 other countries participate in Digital Inclusion Week last year. So we're really excited to see how that's going to grow into a kind of a global movement this year. And also in terms of accessibility and inclusivity, we've seen 37 languages offered in materials and programming throughout the Digital Inclusion Week events last year. So we're really excited to see how we can make Digital Inclusion Week more inclusive, more accessible as the years continue. All right. So Digital Inclusion Week, there's a lot of benefits into joining and participating. First of all, it's a great way to celebrate the progress that your organization, your coalition, your community, your county, your state has achieved towards digital equity in the past year. So it helps you become more visible and raise awareness in not only the work that you've done, but the digital divide issues that are still happening in your community. So people use this week as an opportunity to share important facts about the state of the digital divide in their communities. So that looks like sharing stories from community members about the impact of attending your program, of attending your digital skills class, or the impact of working with a digital navigator and helping them sign up for a low-cost device or low-cost internet plan. It also looks like sharing data on how many households don't have a wireline subscription or data on devices. And it also helps expand your reach. So it's a great way, again, to showcase the important work that you do, help get community support, donations, and sponsors, and help just get that support and awareness of what digital inclusion is and what digital inclusion programs are available to your community members. Because I'm sure you know, like sometimes people don't even know that they can get a refurbished device or what the pros are of using a refurbished device, or that, the library, type of digital skills classes that they offer. Awesome. So there are a lot of ways that organizations and individuals can participate in Digital Inclusion Week. So firstly is you can mobilize on social media. So a lot of new folks last year shared that this is kind of how they participated as they started off with Digital Inclusion Week participation within their organization. So that can look like, sharing statistics about how many folks have participated and what their digital skills class participation looked like, and using the hashtag DIW 2024. It looks like sharing community stories. It can also look like what's a day in the life of a digital navigator, something like that. Those kind of fun stories to help you, showcase the work that you do and help folks understand what Digital Inclusion Week is, both on the community aspect, but also as an organization, the important work that you guys do. Another way that you can get involved is by engaging your elected officials. So that includes asking officials to light up a bridge in teal for support for Digital Inclusion Week. Whether it's your official, city hall, or government building, asking them to light up a bridge or building to help support of Digital Inclusion Week. And also could look like asking your city leadership or official in issuing an official proclamation. And we have examples of that in our toolkit that we'll be talking about later. But, and also asking and engaging them to participate in an event that you're doing, even having them do an appearance to help showcase their support towards digital inclusion programs and Digital Inclusion Week. And then also, lastly, is the most important one, is hosting an event. And our panelists have a lot of experience in that. So that includes, hosting a digital skills class or a digital skills workshop, partnering with another organization. So if your programming is more focused on digital skills classes, you can partner with a refurbishing organization or nonprofit, and then you could have this joint event where you provide a digital skills class, and then after that they are able to see what refurbished devices are available, or even do like some type of handout like that. There's device distribution events. People also do conferences and summits during this week. But we really like to highlight, if you are new to this, just doing a programming that you already do and just doing it during the week of Digital Inclusion Week. So scheduling something from the 7th to October 7 or throughout October 11, just doing that during that week is already enough to participate in Digital Inclusion Week. We definitely don't want to make this more of a burden, because we all know that everybody is super overbooked and planning another event can be really overwhelming. So try to, if you don't need to reinvent the wheel, if you already have a really solid digital inclusion skills class and people attend that, or you're just kind of starting on with that, just schedule that during Digital Inclusion Week. For example, with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, we schedule our Digital Inclusion 101 during the Digital Inclusion Week. That's something that we do bi-monthly. That's something that I host and my team hosts. And boom, that's already something that is an event that we're already participating in that way. So kind of think about what are something that you already do, regularly do, even if it's like a social media campaign, and just schedule it during the week of Digital Inclusion Week, and boom, you've already participated. So that kind of helps. All right, so here are some pictures of past Digital Inclusion Week events from our community. So you can see here some organizations did a panel discussion on e-waste policy and benefits. The Metro Detroit Youth Club, they did a tour of their facility and received all the participants received a Chromebook. There's also gatherings of community-based organizations where they gave out laptops to attendees. They're also hosting the city of Louisville. They hosted information sessions with Black faith leaders and Latino community leaders to share about the resources that are available to help bridge the digital divide in their community, and then also hosting an annual conference. Also, press attention. This is a great opportunity for you to get your organization and the work that you do out into the public. So earned media coverage, that's coverage that you don't have to pay for. This is powerful in promoting your Digital Inclusion Week event. Also, by securing coverage, you can get new participants, just share that your program exists. It also helps recognition, helping folks recognize your program as a valuable digital inclusion program, and then bring in new partners and sponsors. And we also have some templates on that as well. So stay tuned before when we get to that segment. All right, so we do have a Digital Inclusion Week, just a Jamboard activity for y'all. We'd love to hear what events you are all doing. So let me go ahead and share that in the chat. All right, so before we get to our first panel, we'd love to hear, if you are planning a Digital Inclusion Week event, share them. And if you don't have any ideas yet, share what kind of challenges that you're experiencing when planning out your event. And then for those who are kind of more seasoned in this, on the next slide, go ahead and share your digital inclusion wins and advice for new folks that are planning out their first event this year. And I'm also sharing in the chat just links to the Digital Inclusion Week webpage where you can access our toolkits. And also, please, if you already have your event nailed down, go ahead and register your Digital Inclusion Week event so that it can be on our website, and also share how you're taking action. All right. I'll give it a few minutes for folks to kind of share what's going on. And then we'll hop over to our panelists. So let me pause my sharing so I can share the Jamboard. Awesome. Somebody says, we are having a digital inclusion stakeholder event next week and taking lots of good photos so that we can share the photos online during Digital Inclusion Week. I love that. Whoever shared that, you must be like a social media like planner or something, because you already know to take those photos now. So that's less work you have to do during Digital Inclusion Week. I love that. That's a great advice for anybody who, is kind of looking to uh, participate for the first time. If you have photos of events that you've done in the past throughout the year, go ahead and like schedule that to be posted during Digital Inclusion Week and share like, because of our program, we've had X amount of people, or you can share the impact of your program and then just put that hashtag DIW 2024 and boom, you got it. People are going to be doing some digital skills classes, thinking of doing an AI literacy and cybersecurity public event. I love that. And for those who don't have any ideas yet, feel free to use this Jamboard as a kind of a way to see how you can replicate some of these ideas within your organization as it fits within your capacity and budget. So staff is presenting at Pro Literacy Conference about how tutor training should integrate digital literacy. I love that. You're kind of getting in front of a community that isn't necessarily focused on digital inclusion, and you're kind of bringing that digital inclusion piece there. That's amazing. We are hosting a digital inclusion celebration event. We are running our first ever award nomination process and will announce the winners at the event. Okay, y'all are doing some really cool things. When is Digital Inclusion Week? Please share that on the NDIA list here. We want to see pictures. We want to see, outcomes from this. I mean, this is amazing. Y'all are doing really cool and unique things. You're doing a webinar on how to choose a computer and refurbish computer and how to extend the life of your device. Love that. And it's in Spanish and online. I love that. Perfect. And then in the next slide, for those who have already participated, go ahead and share your wins from last year, and then any advice that you can give to folks who are participating this year for the first time. All right, so that brings us to our next segment where we are going to have our panelists. So let me go ahead and here are our panelists. I will have just everybody kind of introduce themselves in order. So Anita and all our panelists, if you could introduce yourself and also share, your first Digital Inclusion Week event. What did you do and how did you coordinate it? Very briefly, so everybody can kind of get familiar with you all. Anita, you are on mute.
Because of course I am on mute. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Anita Thomas Lee, and I'm currently serving as the Assistant Director for Digital Equity, Inclusion, and Navigation for the Illinois Broadband Lab. I have the honor of actually managing and overseeing statewide digital navigators that are placed around the state of Illinois. However, my first Digital Inclusion Week was, I literally had to go back and see, when was the first one? Because I've been working in digital equity inclusion for almost 10 years. And so the very first one is in 2017, and it was in May. Just FYI. And so during that time, my first Digital Inclusion Week activity was to have a host of digital skills classes at a faith-based, a church community that I was currently at the time serving as a digital inclusion fellow with NTEN and with Google Fiber in the Metro Atlanta area, which is where I'm from. And so, yeah, thanks so much, and happy to continue to share when it's my turn.
Awesome. Thank you, Anita. And Molly?
I'm Molly Sherman. I'm currently serving as the Executive Director for the Carroll Technology and Innovation Council, which is serving Central Maryland and statewide. My first Digital Inclusion Week was 2 years ago, and I found out the week of. So I just grabbed some things from the social media toolkit and started posting. I think that was also my first exposure to the world of digital equity and giving the work that the organization I'm at has been doing since 2001, but hadn't really pulled it into digital inclusion. And then last year, didn't have much planning going into the week still, but decided to do kind of a door knocking to talk to folks I'm in a nonprofit building. So just to talk to people about digital inclusion, meet organizations who might not assume that they're digital inclusion organizations, but are still doing similar or aligned work.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly. And Jess.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jess Ross. I am the Executive Director for Austin Freenet. We are a digital literacy nonprofit that specializes in marginalized community members since 1995. So next year's 30 years of digital inclusion for us. I, however, have not been here for 30 years. My experience is actually in music, and I started at Austin Freenet and Digital Inclusion Week in 2021. I had just become interim executive director, and we didn't have a budget. I didn't really have very much of a clue, and I knew that Digital Inclusion Week was important and we wanted to spotlight it and highlight it. And so our first activities were actually webinars. I called on friends, partners, volunteers to help us create a conversation around why digital inclusion matters, why it's important, and have those serious discussions so that we could elevate awareness of Digital Inclusion Week. One of our panelists was actually Angela, who's the executive director for NDIA and our founder, who created Austin Freenet almost 30 years ago. And from there, we've created a lot of magic, which I'm happy to share later on.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you all for being here. I want to start off with any advice on how to plan your Digital Inclusion Week for folks who have limited resources, whether it's limited budget, limited time. They might not have like a social media person or might not have the complete digital skills to navigate Canva and things like that. So how can folks with limited resources participate in Digital Inclusion Week?
Well, I think you crushed one of our biggest pieces of advice earlier on about doing something that you're already doing, but giving it some more attention or putting the spotlight on it by inviting press or just sharing it even more in the community or making something that's public facing. An additional suggestion I'll add, and that I'm trying to do this year, is look for the people who are already doing events that you aspire to do. There's somebody in my community who is so good at putting on a big fun event. Like he'll post one thing on his personal Facebook page and half the town will show up. He's just that guy. So I'm asking him to just pull us together. I'll help provide the structure that I can and the skills that I'm able to offer. But if there's somebody that you know that's already good at what they're doing, look to them and just add what you already have to what they're cooking up.
I love that. You looked for the community leader. You found the guy. So, or the person, you know what I mean? Who is that person for your target audience and connect with them? Anita, do you have any advice for folks planning with limited resources?
Absolutely. So what I would like to offer to anyone that's brand new is that you are coming at a very amazing time. We have the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act from 2021 has been executed. The $65 billion that's been slated for internet infrastructure and digital equity is now starting to flow into your local state. So I would say, The various easiest to do is one, if you haven't read your state digital equity plan, please give that a shot. And then reach out to your local broadband office or your state's broadband offices. A lot of these offices are brand new, and they are actually brand new with individuals who are passionate and maybe even still trying to figure out what digital equity inclusion is. And so I think that is a good piece of easy advice. Contact your local broadband office and see what if they have any resources available, and or if they're willing to join you in any type of planning or functions or opportunities, because that also might help with the whole press thing, right? And it is quite possible that with all of this information out here, just like you're brand new to it, your broadband officer may not even know that Digital Inclusion Week is a thing. And so you can be that one to bring them that information, and then you all can work together in order to not only highlight what you're doing in your community, but also maybe bring some awareness to the entire state.
Love that. Thank you so much, Anita. Connect with your state broadband office and see how you can partner there. And Jess.
I think it's easy to get overwhelmed because there's so much going on during Digital Inclusion Week and everybody kind of wants to keep up. But if you're starting, if you're new, I would say don't get overwhelmed, take baby steps. And my biggest piece of advice would be don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask your city partners. Don't be afraid to ask any partners really, and see what they're doing, partner with people. And then an easy lift, honestly, is just using the hashtags. Just use the hashtags during the week. If you're not sure what to do, watch what other people are doing, and then do what you do well and do it on Digital Inclusion Week and use the hashtags. I think that's probably the best, but baby steps are going to be just as effective as racking your brain trying to come up with some grand scheme of how you want digital inclusion to look. And once you start taking those baby steps, you'll realize, okay, I can do something a little bit bigger, a little bit grander, or you'll get better ideas, or you'll see where it will leverage your programs, because ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to highlight what we're doing and highlight that it's important, and we want more people to be invested. So that would be my advice for newbies out there.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's a really great point. Reach out and search where, your community is active online, whether it's a community listserv, a popular social media page, and just ask, is anybody doing a event for Digital Inclusion Week? And whoever responds there is a potential partnership or collaboration. And as you'll see, more people will be filling out our registration form, and you're going to see, like, on our webpage, the different events that are happening. I really love what Jess said. Don't get intimidated. There are places that are doing summits and like a whole festival. Looking at you, Jess, and that's amazing. But that doesn't mean that your first step into Digital Inclusion Week isn't just as beneficial for your community. You got to start somewhere, right? Perfect. So that leads to my next question is, what's your advice for folks coordinating their first Digital Inclusion Week event? It kind of, I'm sure it aligns with the same type of advice or resources for folks with limited budget, but like in terms of advice for goal setting or anything like that, for those who are new, what advice would you have for our community? And we could start with Molly.
I would say do something fun and do something celebratory. It doesn't have to be the only part of the event, but if you're struggling to think of ways to get people to show up, people love novel experiences, stuff that they can tell their friends about, the same things that you look for in activities that you're choosing to spend your time on. So look for something enjoyable for yourselves and the people that are doing the work on it, and those people will come. It doesn't have to be too serious. Sometimes I feel like we can get pretty serious in digital inclusion because so much is at stake when we're talking about technology in people's lives, but it's also something that we find a lot of enjoyment with. So I know this year I'm trying to tap into that core a little bit more when I'm talking about digital equity and planning my events.
I love that. Yeah, learn what is at the heart of your community and what connects them online. So is it learning how to download WhatsApp? learning how to, create a YouTube playlist. I just love to share that I recently taught my dad how to create a YouTube playlist, and he cried because he now has a playlist of all his favorite Filipino songs he had growing up, and like his favorite, like, intense, like, music war songs and stuff like that. Like, that's the power of the internet and digital skills, that you create this like emotional connection, and you can do that with your community. So I love that advice, Molly. Anita, do you have advice for new folks?
Absolutely. It's gonna be this kind of overarching theme of once again, as Jess was saying, don't get overwhelmed and don't forsake small beginnings. Don't think because you're gonna get on NDI's website on the 12th or whatever that next Monday is, and you see all these other folks doing all this amazing stuff and think, oh, I'm doing it. No, think about how you can have fun, but actually, because this is a celebration, right? It's a week of awareness, but it's also a week of celebration. Bringing in, like I said, like you crushed it earlier, Pamela, with attaching yourself to another event or attaching your event to something else that may be going on, so that you can bring that awareness. That's always fun, right? And so I had another one, but it just flew out of my head. And if I think of it as Jess is giving her advice, I reserve the right, Pamela, to come back to me around if I think of it. You're gonna see me on the screen, I'm gonna be like, okay.
Got it. I'll wait for that cue.
Okay.
No worries. We'll wrap around back to you after. Jess, do you have any advice for new folks participating?
Yeah, if you're coordinating your first digital inclusion event or digital inclusion week event, I would say don't get too complicated. Keep it easy. Set yourself up for success. I know that Digital Inclusion Week will sneak up on anybody, even the most prepared people. So you want to make sure that it is, as Molly mentioned, something that's fun and celebratory and easygoing. So I would say don't do too much and make sure that you're setting yourself up for success so that you can learn from your experience and have, maybe a more complicated Digital Inclusion Week next year.
Yes, thank you so much. And I resonate with what Kim said, is love the focus of fun and celebration. We in this work, we can get really focused on like the data and the numbers, and like, we really need to make change, but like some people just want to like bring their tablet and want to learn something fun, meet new people who also are like, I don't know how to convert a Word doc to a PDF. Let's learn together. You know what I mean? And just kind of take away that stigma and fear. Somebody had a question. Oh, I see Anita. I see you. Let me just address somebody's question on, I think Lori has asked, has anyone done any events for non-English speakers? We need ideas. Lori, I'm going to put in the chat Digital Inclusion Week 2023. So this is last year, and you can look on the table there. You can see all the different events that were provided in different languages other than English, so you can filter it that way. And then just go ahead and kind of just view that list and see how what kind of events that they were doing in that language. So just kind of a resource for y'all there. You can also look at past Digital Inclusion Week events to get ideas on, how to do something similar with organizations that are similar like yours. Anita, I saw the hand.
Yes, I was gonna say, don't be afraid to think outside the box as to what is your celebration, right? Because the automatic thing is like, oh, I need to put together a digital skills class, or oh, I need to do a device distribution, or oh, I need to do something where we're, signing everybody up for internet, which is amazing. But if your organization doesn't really do that in the norm, think about something outside the box and innovative where you can showcase, I don't know, I can't think of anything right now, but just something where you can showcase a particular thing or something awesome that your organization does, and talk about how technology and being digitally inclusive infuses into that or uplifts that, right? And so that's what I wanted to say. Like, think outside the box. It doesn't have to be like the one of the three. It could be something totally different, but you're showcasing how the fact that we are all trying to be digitally inclusive and the fact that we understand that the digital divide and closing that divide will enhance any and all parts of our life is so very, very important. So there it is.
Thank you so much, Anita. Somebody had asked in the chat if we could send resources where they can get free Chromebooks to distribute to event attendees. My best recommendation is to check out the NDIA listserv. There is a lot of discussion on, you know, where to get refurbished devices, who to reach out to, who to partner with. And if you have a specific question like that, that's a perfect question to ask in the listserv. Like, hey, you know, I'm based out in this location. I'm interested in doing a event with a partner who that refurbishes device. Anybody, you know, in this area that likes to partner with me, go ahead and contact me. That's a great way to look for, you know, potential partners there. Perfect. And then our last but not least question is, how do you get leadership on board? Some of us might be just, you know, we are the one position in our organization that is focused on digital inclusion work. And, you know, how did y'all, you know, what are some tips that you have for folks in that situation to encourage their leadership that like, hey, we should, you know, spend time in participating in this event?
I'll go first. I think I'm the one that posed the question. You know, first of all, don't give up. That's number one thing. Because sometimes leadership might get it, but they don't get it. And I say that because as practitioners in this field, this concept of closing the digital divide, it's new concept, it's niche. It's not what we call one of the biggies. And when you think about trying to make social change, it's not poverty, it's not homelessness, it's not education, it's not health, you know, it's not what I call the biggies. But once again, it's so important because it's interwoven in all those different things. So what I would say is, whoever it is, the leadership that you're trying to convince to get on board, right? Try to frame your ask in what they are passionate about. If they are passionate about health equity, present, you know, the celebration of Digital Inclusion Week by talking about how important it is that we showcase how technology helps with health equity, right? So that's kind of one of the ways when you know, you may go to leadership that might not get it, or there might be even resistance. It's going to be on you to kind of frame your pitch, if you will, to actually allowing the organization to bring resources by showing the success of what closing the digital divide would be for that particular cause. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Thank you, Anita. Molly?
Remind them that you'll create collateral from this week that you can use in grants. So if you do get press attention, you can later pull that into a grant or a different funding opportunity. Also, if you're not an organization going for grants, involvement in this week might meet some social responsibility goals at your organization. So following the money and pointing out where the money could be found by your involvement in this week would certainly be helpful in appealing to leadership and other goals and pressures that they might be under, and considering when, you know, thinking about how you're going to spend your time in order to do something well during the week.
I love that. Very strategic. Hit them with the money. This, you know, you talk about money, right?
Go there.
Yes, I love that. Perfect. And Jess, do you have any tips on how to get leadership on board?
Yeah, I would utilize NDIA's resources as leverage as well. The statistics that Pamela showed in the beginning of the slide, I think, are very impactful to see how many other organizations are on board with Digital Inclusion Week and are using it and how they're using it. All of the resources that they have on there are good visuals, but also it shows leadership that, like, look, everybody else is doing this. We definitely need to get on board. So I think having that piece, along with what Anita said and along with what Molly said, would give a well-rounded package of something that's going to be hard to say no to. But use NDIA as a resource, use their facts, their statistics, use their platform that they have, which is a nationwide platform, and give them an offer they can't refuse.
I love that. Thank you so much. We've got time for just a few more questions. And if you do have any questions, put them in the Q&A chat. But I do want to ask a question about challenges. What were some unexpected challenges that you had when you were, participating in your first Digital Inclusion Week event? And we can go with Anita first.
You mean other than leadership not wanting to? I think some of the challenges is like literally what you all, the new people here, may be experiencing right now. Like, I have no idea what to do. And so that is a challenge. And I would say, obviously, now that NDIA has, we have built this community over and over. And like I said, we got these toolkits that Pamela is going to talk about that will be access to you free of charge. Each year we make it easier and easier. I would say, tap into that. So I think that initial, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I want to do this. And maybe you're still learning about what digital equity and inclusion is. I think that's probably the first big challenge for newbies.
Thank you, Anita. You bring up a good point. There's probably a lot of folks that they just started their position and they're still learning what digital inclusion is. NDIA on our YouTube page, we have recordings of our Digital Inclusion 101 webinar. I just hosted one recently last week, so it's on there. If you want to get a recording of that, reach out to me. I could send you the link. And again, utilize our listserv if you have specific questions. But yes, definitely that overwhelm. Molly, do you have what were some unexpected challenges for you?
I think it was mostly self-inflicted challenges, just information paralysis, maybe. I couldn't really decide which ideas to go with. And then when I did, I wasn't sure how much to market them because I wasn't confident that it was going to be worth someone's time, when really I just needed to get behind an event fully and give it a shot and get folks there and get them to give feedback and know that it was just my first time doing it. Maybe that's a perfectionism type of thing. I feel like I'm shaking that off, but that definitely was something that probably stood in the way last year.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks can resonate with that. If this is their first time participating, there's like, it's not on your shoulders to solve the digital divide. Like, this event is not going to solve that. Just think about something fun that even like think about, a family member. What would they go to, and what digital skill they would learn, or a resource that they would have that can make their life easier, whether it's learning how to deposit their check online or, through an app. Just something like that can be a life changer for somebody. So I hear you on the perfectionism, Molly, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And Jess.
I think time was a challenge for me in the beginning because it really does sneak up on you. So just being mindful of how much time you have to coordinate, because the devil is in the details, and sometimes you just don't have time to hash out those details. But I really second what Molly said about just being confident in that it's your first event and you're human, and things are going to be unexpected, but you can grow and you can learn from those and make next Digital Inclusion Week better from not so much the mistakes, but the challenges that you had in your first Digital Inclusion Week. So don't be too hard on yourself and take it as a learning experience as well for you.
Perfect. And that kind of leads into the last thing I want to ask is timeline. What was the timeline that you guys had when planning out your event? And I only say this because, you know, we're like less than 6 weeks away. And so I know that there are a lot of folks who are still on top of the overwhelm. They're like, can we even do anything in 6 weeks? You know, what advice do you have for folks on a short timeline? Like, can it get done? And did you do it?
6 weeks feels pretty good. I also feel like you can count the time that you spent thinking before even coming to this session. You can call it like ideation period or something. Like let yourself have already begun the process of planning your event to just like cut out the, oh my gosh, I have to get started on something. So you all have been on a timeline. You've probably been working on your event by the time it gets here for 7 weeks because you've already started thinking about it. I think I've done something as short as like, I mean, the first time I did it, I found out the week of. So maybe that was a few minutes between seeing it and then going to grab something from the toolkit. I think last year I remembered it a little bit sooner because I was working with you guys, but I still don't think I was really planning until like 3 weeks out. This time around, I've been thinking about it for 2 months, but I think the real work is going to start next week of making sure I have everyone going to show up on a day for an event and for workshops, really cramming a lot in this one. So I'm going to stop talking there so nobody gets any crazy ideas.
No, that's really great, and that's really helpful, and a great confidence boost that like, first of all, y'all are here, so you can add that to the timeline of how long you've already been planning this, but also a lot can get done in a short amount of time, especially if it's your first time participating, you know, and also kind of seeing how other folks are, you know, sharing Digital Inclusion Week, what their social media campaign is, and just reiterating that with your community and your organization. Jess and Anita? I probably shouldn't have done that. Jess?
So for the first Digital Inclusion Week that I did, maybe a month, I was like, oh, next month is Digital Inclusion Week. Okay, we gotta move fast. So it was a little scatterbrained and not how we like to do it, especially with the bandwidth that we have. Austin Freenet relies on a lot of volunteers to help us achieve our mission, but our team is a team. Our team makes fun of me because I say small but mighty, but we are a team of four total staff members. And so a month out wasn't really what we would like. So the following year, we started planning in June and July. And then this year, we actually had partners reaching out to us in June and July saying, hey, let's start talking about what options we have. So we take the approach of the more time, the better. And that gives us more runway. But we also add a lot and partner a lot as well. With a small team, we kind of need that extra time.
I love that. That's really inspiring for those who are kind of starting right now. You know, that they planted the seed and then a few years, this is kind of where they're at. And so kind of think about it that way. Like whatever you get out there and just whatever is available for your time and capacity, just post something on there, host an event, and then who knows what next year can see, right? But that's all part of that learning process. And Anita.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go back to a previous statement that I said, forsake not small beginnings. And that really just kind of dovetails what you all just said. This first go around, you're planting a seed, and that is only going to continue to water and germinate into what Jess is going to talk about in 2.0 in a few minutes. And so I would say in this, 6 weeks or less than 6 weeks that we have left, be thoughtful, once again, be innovative. What can you do uniquely? Or what can you do small? If you make the decision, you're like, you know what, all we're gonna do is be able to do a social media post every single day with the hashtag. That's going to be great because guess what's going to happen? NDIA when they're going to compile that cool map, they're going to shoot out a video. And when you see things like Digital Inclusion Week was retweeted and reposted over 600,000 times. That's going to give, you're going to be like, I was a part of that. I was a part of one of those 600,000 tweets or reshares or reposts or whatever the case that may be. And that is worth doing even the smallest thing.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. Please, everybody give a round of applause to our awesome panelists for this first part. And I hope that for those who are new and starting off in their Digital Inclusion Week journey, that this was really beneficial for you. Again, these are folks that are part of our National Digital Inclusion Week Planning Committee. So they've been in your position, even just as recent as last year. So feel free to reach out to us. And this really leads us to our next portion. So our next panelist is Jess and Onisha. So thank you, Anita and Molly, for joining us. Thank you. Amazing. Now, Anita talked about resources, and we were talking a lot about resources. So let me kind of jump into what available resources are for you when planning your event. So we have recently launched our Digital Inclusion Week 2024 toolkits. So these are all available for you. Let me go ahead and put that link in the chat of where you can go to access those toolkits. It's also on the Digital Inclusion Week webpage. So everything is all there. And they're all on a Google Drive folder, just FYI. And so there are a lot of toolkits here ready for you. So first off is our Digital Inclusion Week 2024 Essentials Toolkit. So that includes a title graphic, excuse me. So like the title graphic with the logo, so you can incorporate that in your social media posts. We also have talking points and general messaging. So when you're going up to leadership or you're, connecting with somebody for a potential partnership, there are talking points there for you to describe what even is Digital Inclusion Week for people who might not even know it exists. And ways, there's also ways that people can get involved. We also have email outreach templates. So those templates are available for you if you're, looking for a partner or wanting to reach out to, your local big community event and you want to talk about Digital Inclusion Week or you want to highlight what event you're going to be doing. There's an email outreach template there for you, and also a slide deck as well. We also have our Digital Inclusion Events Toolkits. So in there, you will find tips for successful Digital Inclusion Week event programming. There's a checklist there, including making sure that your event is accessible and inclusive. Check that out. We also have a computer outreach training toolkit, as well as a computer skills self-paced guide. We also have a technology device donation drive guide as well, which kind of lists out the benefits for all types of folks to involve, whether you are a nonprofit and for-profit. We also have an advocacy and actions for elected officials toolkit. So in there, you will find tips on how to engage with elected officials. We also have another template for you because we want to make sure that this is as easy and seamless for you as possible. And that template is reaching out to your elected official. We've got a template for that on how they can get involved, even just setting up a meeting to talk more. We also have a template on how you can ask to light up your city or government bridge or building. So that's included there. And we also have examples of other state and local county and city government proclamation, their Digital Inclusion Week proclamation. So you can use that as a reference. And then lastly, we also have a PR, media, and tips for earned media coverage. So in that toolkit, you will learn tips on how to get your Digital Inclusion Week event earned media coverage. So that is free media coverage. And we also have templates for you, a press release template, so you can reach out to your local news outlets. And it already has the theme of Digital Inclusion Week and a template for you there. All you have to do is insert your event information and you're good to go. And then we also have a media advisory template for you. So we really wanted to make sure that you can go into Digital Inclusion Week event planning with as much support and confidence as possible. So you can go ahead and check out our Digital Inclusion Week webpage to see those toolkits. Awesome. And then your next steps for Digital Inclusion Week is first, please register your event so you can get featured on our website. And so other potential partners can see, oh, that organization exists in our community. Let's partner with them. Let's see what we can do. Also, as an individual, share how you're taking action. Both of those forms are on our website. And then lastly, go ahead and view and utilize those Digital Inclusion Week toolkits. All right, and so let me share and feature our next set of panelists. And let me do that 1 second. All righty. So for our next segment, this is more for seasoned folks, people who have done Digital Inclusion Week events before. It is Digital Inclusion Week 2.0, how to elevate your Digital Inclusion Week event. And for those who have not participated in Digital Inclusion Week, this is still for you too. So you can start kind of planning how, you know, what can possibly happen in the future after you've participated in this year's event. So we have our co-chairs of our National Planning Committee with us. You all have heard the lovely Jess Ross, and we have also Onisha Freeman Rojales. So hello. Onisha, could you please introduce yourself and then also share the moment that you realized that your Digital Inclusion Week activity went up the next level, when you learned that it got elevated?
Well, Onisha Freeman Rojales, I'm the digital connectivity manager for the state of Georgia. So hello, everyone. But if you are from the state of Georgia, please put your contact information in the chat. I lead our statewide digital equity work alongside our broadband team. And so as they talk about reaching out to your broadband teams in your state, that is all of my colleagues across the country. And they want to hear from you. And even if they didn't, I want you to reach out to them anyway. So the moment that I knew that it was elevated, well, I think when we had multiple things going on in the same week. So we were able to kind of like make a calendar and say, on Monday, we're doing this, Tuesday, this is happening, Wednesday, that's happening, and really, have a seamless branding, I think, across all of those events, a seamless message across the events. And each one of them, made sense next to the other. And so, we may have started off with doing one thing, which we probably didn't, because I am me. So we probably didn't ever start off just doing one thing. However, I think the elevation came when we had that seamless message, that seamless brand. We were able to put out this like little calendar type of thing. And so, yeah, but now we're about to take it statewide. So that's really where it's about to get elevated. So thanks to all the great work that people are doing across the country, even in this work, we had the ability to really look at other people's initiatives and ways to go about it and really, take it to the next level. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anisha. And Jess, I'm sure there are new folks that have joined us. Go ahead and reintroduce yourself and also share that moment when you realized that your Digital Inclusion Week activity got upgraded.
Thank you, Pamela. Hi, everybody. My name is Jess Ross. I am the executive director for Austin Freenet. We are a digital inclusion nonprofit that's been around since 1995. So again, almost 30 years in digital inclusion. When I realized we had taken Digital Inclusion Week to the next level, it was the end of our first Tech for All Fest. We only thought we were going to have one Tech for All Fest, and at the end of the festival, actually, I think a little bit before it actually officially ended, we had partners coming up to us saying, this needs to be annual. This needs to be every year. We want in on this. We want to make it bigger. We want to make it better. At that moment, I was like, uh-oh, I've created a Digital Inclusion Week monster. And so it definitely felt really, really good to have our partners see what we were trying to do and want to elevate it again and again, year after year.
Awesome. So the first question that I have for both of you, which I think a lot of folks are really wanting to know, is in regards to funding. How did you get funding for your Digital Inclusion Week event, especially as it, grew?
So backing up for a second, everybody on the call, I used to work at a nonprofit here in Metro Atlanta that did device distribution. So we were a nonprofit refurbisher. We gave out devices to families, had partnerships with schools and things like that. So I really kind of came from that, the world of the local practitioner. And when we were there, when I was there, you know, we did this work every day. So the funding came from all of our great supporters that, you know, really gave to the organization. And we were able to use that week as a way to celebrate the great, like really shine a light on the work that we were doing more externally, but also internally. So, you know, we collectively got a chance to appreciate all of our funders to say, like, look at what you've been investing in. So, you know, the money that we had, right, it wasn't like I had to go out and try to find any additional fund, at least at the beginning, right? Any additional funds to support the work, because we use that as a time to pat ourselves on the back and to cheerlead ourselves and to share that out with the greater community. You know, one of the things we did strategically is that we scheduled some of our workshops during that week, you know, so we were going to do partnerships anyway. We're going to do distributions anyway. So we tried to schedule that stuff during that week. And we talked about Digital Inclusion Week at the workshops to the parents and the kids. And we had volunteers that would come in. So it was just like a way to just add that awareness during the time that we already were working. So I think it was just good to just be conscious that this week comes along every year. So you can kind of think about scheduling activities around that week. And so what we would do is like add the logo and the theme to like all of our outreach material for the event that we were essentially already going to have. It really was a low cost effort because we didn't do anything new necessarily while I was there. But I would say this, now that I'm in this role, doing, you know, looking at digital equity and inclusion statewide, we will look to an opportunity to utilize some of our upcoming capacity awards in order to really support the work that is going on for Digital Inclusion Week. I don't know if we'll be able to do it this year, but I believe that next year we'll probably be able to do that. And so that is an opportunity there. So as people in my role are starting to look for ways to invest in or get partners for digital equity to support their state implementation. This is a great way, especially if you're already doing stuff, this is a great way to try to see if there's an opportunity. And one other thing I just want to lift up is that in Cook County, Illinois, they have they are looking for what am I trying to say? They're celebrating Digital Inclusion Week. They do Digital Inclusion Week every year. And one of the things that they're doing from the county level is offering up an opportunity for people to get a little bit of funding to support their digital equity work, like a stipend. They put it out on like LinkedIn a couple weeks ago. Kyla Williams is the lead there. And so if you're in Cook County, Illinois, and you want to take advantage of that, that may be a great opportunity to get some a little bit of funding to support your work. But I think letting folks know that you need funding might be an important ask as well. So as you're doing your grant opportunities and building your budgets around your work, you know, don't forget that this is the time you want to celebrate yourself. So this could be a great time to make that ask. Thank you, Alicia. She put the information about the Cook County opportunity in the chat for y'all.
Awesome. Thank you. And I love seeing this collaboration, potential partnership happening in the chat. I love that. And that's exactly what our community is all about. And Jess, do you have, could you share how you got funding for your Digital Inclusion Week event?
Yeah, so for Tech for All Fest, that idea kind of came out of what my passion is, what the city kind of represents, and what I would think my mother, as a second generation immigrant, what my mother would want to attend. And so we kind of created Tech for All Fest off of that and the history of Austin Freenet. We also had a festival like way back in the 90s. We had a festival. So I took all of that and kind of created a concept for Tech for All Fest, but I knew selling it was going to be a hard sell because a festival for digital inclusion seems not natural, I guess. So the first thing I did was made a very modest budget for what we needed and what we could obtain and achieve. And then I got fearless in asking. I asked everybody. I asked our partners. I asked our sponsors. I asked our contract managers. I mean, our volunteers. And what I found is that even if they weren't completely sold on what I was selling, they were willing to help some. And by the end of that Tech for All Fest, I had sponsorship from big tech, and I was able to make a bigger and better Tech for All Fest for the following year. And so I would say be fearless in your asking. Ask everybody. If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. But you'd be amazed at what happens when you do ask. So I would say get fearless in asking, have a modest budget, and you know, be able to pivot if you don't achieve that budget in the way that you want. And then just be aware that next year we'll have a lot, you know, once you're, what is the analogy of like you planting seeds, and then you next year you'll probably have a garden before you even know it.
I love that. Was there like any strategy that you had when you were both kind of asking and you saw like, oh, this type of phrasing, or when I had asked it in this way worked? You know, like with your outreach, was it, if it's like a shorter type of direct ask, that was more likely to get a yes?
For me, I think having a one-pager of everything that I envisioned, everything that we were representing, something visual for people to kind of see, because me talking about it all day doesn't really have the same effect as me showing you a one-pager of what we're trying to achieve, what our goals are, who's on board with us, what we're doing, and how strategic and planned out and thoughtful we have this initiative essentially. So, and then just being confident in what you're selling and knowing that like, this is a great idea, this is going to work, and this is what the community needs, and this is what we want to do for Digital Inclusion Week. I think confidence and just being a little bit prepared for any questions that come your way were really beneficial for Tech for All Fest in the first year.
Awesome. Onisha, do you have any like advice on like what specific strategies helped?
One of the things I would say is like thinking about my nonprofit times when you have those events that are like annual events that your organization may already do. You might have a fundraising gala, y'all might have a calendar. So the development person in your organization may, you know, maybe y'all have like 3 or 4 anchor events every year. So this might feel like something new if it's not a part of that sort of normal fundraising events calendar. So strategically think about, first of all, who is that person, and consider exactly what Jess said. What do you want to see and get from it, and use all those resources to create that messaging, and then try to see if you can start to anchor this week as a part of everything that y'all do as an organization to uplift the work and bring awareness to your organization, and you know, that kind of thing. I think I was fortunate because all we did was digital inclusion work. But before I got to this organization, I worked at a place that I was at this place called the Computer Clubhouse, and the Computer Clubhouse was just a piece of this organization that did like school-based health centers and childcare and all these other things. And so if I wanted somebody to care about what was going on at the Computer Clubhouse, I really had to make it a part of the entire organization's like way that they shared out what they did. And so it's going to take some work, and over time it can happen. And so, you know, now being at the state, I can say this month, this week is going to be anchored in our state to celebrate Digital Inclusion Week. And hopefully that'll help all the other practitioners across our state so that they can now not just say, well, nationally it's Digital Inclusion Week. They can say state, you know, in the state of Georgia is Digital Inclusion Week, or, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that helps. And if you have an ask for your state person, it could just be that, just acknowledge it, right? So when we go to our funders and ask them to support us and sponsors to give us money, it's not just us. It's like, oh no, this is a state thing. This is a statewide thing or a county-wide thing. And we just want to be a part of it. So we need a couple $100,000 or a couple $100 to make that happen, to get the food for the kids and swag and all that kind of stuff. So I know there's a long answer to the question, but.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I love how you leveraged your, position now within a local, government entity, and how you can help, everybody else who are more local practitioners. So thank you for that. My next question is, how did you elevate your Digital Inclusion Week event? Like it started off in this and now it's grown into this thing. What was like the process in doing that?
I'll let Jess go on this one.
I think there were a lot of things that we wanted to do initially that we knew wouldn't be beneficial in the first year. And so we kind of put those on the back burner. And then honestly, learning from the lessons that we had operating the first festival and growing on that. But once people see that, what you're doing, you're yielding results. Like I said, your garden will start to grow naturally on its own. If people come to expect that you're going to be doing Digital Inclusion Week activities, then people will, sponsors will come around and be like, okay, well, what are you doing this year? So I feel like baby steps, and then just acknowledging that sometimes partners, sponsors, especially big tech sponsors, need time to invest into you, and they kind of want to dip their toe in the pool before they dive in, and understanding that that's okay and that's acceptable. So I think that's really how we got to a point where we have these bigger partners helping us with the festival, and we have all of these local partners wanting to participate and be a part, is just understanding that you can grow in time, and it doesn't have to be a big bang right out the gate. And it's actually kind of better if you take your time and learn and grow in that capacity.
I love that. And this is great for our new folks as well. Like when you're thinking about your Digital Inclusion Week event or how you're participating, try to make it as easy as possible so that it's sustainable and something that you can build upon for next year and future events. Onisha, how about you? How did you elevate your Digital Inclusion Week event? How did that look?
Well, I think part of it is I feel like I'm getting ready to elevate it. So I may not be there yet, but just thinking about one of the things that we did was we started to involve more people in our Digital Inclusion Week. Like when I was at Inspire EDU, they started doing a like digital discussion. So we scheduled that digital discussion that week, and we were able to have folks from other organizations talk about digital inclusion in a different setting, and then share that out with the greater community. So it was just like, I think just being creative about the types of activities we did was one way, that we elevated it. But I think, doing a festival would be amazing. Doing an awards type ceremony or something like that during Digital Inclusion, we could elevate it. So if you have like community champions or like, a volunteer of the year or something, right? Like people love to be celebrated. So if you can celebrate your community members, the people that are are learning or getting the certification or finish the class, they finish one day of class, give them a certificate and a gold star. Like I think that if you use this as an opportunity to celebrate, that could definitely elevate it, because they're going to go tell people and they're going to post it on their social media. And maybe you can even be strategic about who you celebrate and how you celebrate them, because depending on the network of that person, it could really, really be beneficial to you. If y'all haven't noticed, it's something that I really see this as an opportunity to share about the great work that the organizations are doing to the potential funders, as well as to the community members. And so people take different approaches, but one of the approaches I take is like, how can we shine a light on this great work so that other people who don't know about it, but could potentially learn about it and want to start investing in it, can do that. And so that's just one approach that an organization can take, in addition to spreading the word about their activities to the greater community who they want to serve. So kind of make maybe both things happening at the same time, and bringing in those people to see it, it just could be so cool for you, and you would be surprised at how much you can glean or get from just inviting people in, to your space and to your classes and stuff.
I also wanted to add on to that because it reminds me of a great idea. Earlier I said, do what you do well during Digital Inclusion Week, but to expand on that, maybe expand actually that programming. So we have a device distribution that's every 2 weeks, but for Digital Inclusion Week, we're doing it every single day of Digital Inclusion Week. So that's kind of a way you can sprinkle some glitter on what you're already doing well and elevate it in a way that doesn't have to be as intimidating as throwing a whole festival or, something grandiose. It doesn't have to be that. It can be at your pace and at your level and what you do well. So set yourself up for success to do a great Digital Inclusion Week, but then also expand on a great Digital Inclusion Week. And then you'll see it grow, and you'll see where you need to improve, and you'll see where you need to expand.
I love that. I love that so much. And Onisha, I love like the discussion, a digital discussion. And it kind of made me think of so October, that's Digital Inclusion Week, but you can partner with other organizations. Just search what like awareness cause is of the month. I mean, I just Googled it. There's National ADHD Awareness. It's also Filipino American Heritage Month. Whatever like type of heritage month or cause is within your community, reach out to that organization and see if you can do like a discussion type and kind of connect digital inclusion into how it affects both communities.
To that same point, it's also Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and that's like a really good one because of the scams and all the crazy stuff that people can get caught up in with not protecting their data and staying safe online. So to that point, when we talked about baby steps, but like pick something, pick a topic, and just focus in on just that topic for a day or two, during the week. It's a week-long thing, but you don't have to do something every single day. You could really just pick one of the days. I think that Friday is also like the 11th of this year's week is the International Day of the Girl. I think that's the name of it. I'll Google it in just a second, but pick a day, pick an audience, and, think about how you could best serve those folks through that discussion. And that would be, a way to kind of maybe simplify it, but then you can really go hard on that one thing,
Yeah, absolutely. Being that this was the work that I was doing before NDIA, October is also the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, partner with your local shelter and, you can give digital inclusion skills classes on how to make sure that you know your passwords, how to recover your passwords, what are best practices in posting your location, how to keep yourself safe online, how to effectively delete your history and, get out of a website, or make sure that you have all of your like password information. Just some cool things that, from just this conversation, all these ideas are coming out of. And so talking about partnerships, I want to know what partnerships were crucial with elevating and the success of elevating your Digital Inclusion Week event. And Jess, we can start with you.
Transparently, all of our partnerships were crucial. So volunteers, sponsors, and then local partners are really what helped us get over the finish line and create a great event. We had an open line of communication with all three of those, and we really wanted to make them feel included as much as we wanted to throw a great event. And so really everybody, I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but for us, it was pretty crucial. Remember, we are a small team, and so we really did rely on all of our partners to help us achieve this goal.
Perfect. And thank you, Onisha. I see it. International Day of the Girl.
Partnerships. I agree with what she just said, but you can start with your current partners. Like, I mean, partnerships kind of make this whole thing happen anyway. I'm pretty sure everyone on this call has some partners. So the ones that are maybe the ones that have an additional network, you know, that you could tap into could be really advantageous. Your school partners, if you have school partners, letting them know. I mean, then again, if you have partnerships that don't know anything about Digital Inclusion Week, use Digital Inclusion Week as a time to get your partners on board with Digital Inclusion Week. So next year, next time, you guys can do some stuff together, because the convincing of things sometimes takes time. So if you don't have your board members on board with Digital Inclusion Week, your volunteers or your partners that you currently have, that's the first place to start with it. I will say also, the internet service providers across our country are very, very much interested in closing the digital divide. And so, but you got to get to them soon, very quickly, because it's coming up, right? So if you have a local contact, let them know that you want to do an activity, and you probably want to reach out to someone in community affairs. Sometimes it's government affairs, even though it's a community. Sometimes the person is still like the government affairs person. Reach out to maybe your local ISP, your local power company, anyone that might be in the broadband internet space. They may be interested in helping to support. And if they don't know that you exist, they may or may not know, you know, how they can support you. So think of them as your partners. They are our partners in this, whether they are doing things directly with us or not. Because of the internet expansion going on across the country, they are our national partners in this, statewide partners, community level partners. But sometimes they need to be brought into what we're doing. So they could be a great resource. And last thing I'll say is your local, say like maybe political network, maybe your commissioners or your mayors, because we talked about earlier about the proclamations and stuff like that. So this will give them a moment to be able to see themselves in community. So if they're open to doing it, and you can get on their calendar, inviting them out to you to come into your spaces and places and be a part of community to do those proclamations or just to learn, that could seed a future partnership. So it kind of depends on where you are, I think, in the process. But, you know, those are some ways that I think could potentially help with partnerships.
Awesome. Thank you. And Molly, our previous panelist, put in the chat, create FOMO. And that is a great way to, you know, get those partnerships, or even, you know, when you're pitching to potential sponsors on how they can get involved and support. So one of the ways to do that is through data. I want to know, oh, and thank you, Jess, for typing that out. Fear of missing out for those who might not know. And now that you know, you can use it again for those who don't know, and then you can continue that cycle. Jess, I wanted to know, and both Onisha, how did you measure your success from your past Digital Inclusion Week events? Like, did you do any tracking? And you know, because that's a great way for people to create that FOMO and like that pitch when they're, you know, reaching out to potential sponsors or partners of like, this is how many people got involved. How were you able to track that?
So client engagement was a big thing for us. We wanted to know how many clients were participating and engaging, and if it was more than the year before. And then also we did partner assessments. So any partner that was involved with Tech for All Fest in any capacity got an assessment, and they were able to voice their opinion in an anonymous kind of environment, and just be as transparent as possible. And we really went into that assessment saying, please help us be better, and just be as transparent as you can, because your honesty is the best policy for us, and that's going to help us grow. And so we took a lot away from those assessments that wasn't really voiced in the meetings that we had, because it was in a different form. I feel like they were a little bit more confident to kind of speak their truths and what they liked and what they didn't like, and what they felt did work and what they felt didn't work. And then we took those back to a meeting that we had, like a closeout meeting with our partners, and then we just kind of discussed how we could make those concerns, those issues better for us. So I think just really having that assessment with our partners was truly beneficial for the next Tech for All Fest, and something that they weren't really anticipating. I think they were thinking, oh, it's just a festival. They just want us to be a vendor, or they just want this element of our organization. But we really wanted to know like how we could make it better, how we can make it better for them, how we could make it better for the community in their eyes. And I do really feel that having all of those opinions elevated our festival for the next year.
Mela, can I ask Jess a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jess, where the festival, like, where is it? Like, what's the location, and like, how do people get to it and like know and find out about it? I'm just curious to, like, how did y'all work up to that?
So the first year we held it at Kenny Dorm's backyard, which is a nonprofit space that hosts like musical acts in historic East Side. The way that I knew about that place is because I am a musician, and so I used to go there for like music jams, and I happened to know who the executive director was because he's a bass player. And so I was like, hey, in my confidence of asking, I was like, we don't really have a budget, but we would love to have a festival here. And he was so accommodating and happy. I mean, he believed in what we were doing, and he was happy to let us borrow his space. So that was the first place that we had it. When we did assessments on that festival, we learned from our community members that it wasn't really accessible to all of our clients, and we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So from there, we went to the next Tech for All Fest was at East Side High, which is a high school that's over here on the east side as well. We wanted to keep it in the historic area of where AFN has served, and where a lot of marginalized communities are. And that school in particular was shut down a few times, and it was the first all Black school. So there was a historic element to that as well. We had it there, and it was phenomenal because we were able to accommodate for anybody who could or needed to come up. And so this year we're actually hosting it here at the DeWitty in partnership with Austin Film Society, Austin Public. So before PBS Studios, there was Austin Public. And that is to highlight our buildings, our partner buildings. And we want to just make sure that the people that are local here know about these two buildings, because they really do serve for them. So each year it's a little bit different. And it's also centered on like what the community needs, what the community wants. And then we go to great lengths to make sure that it is accessible to a lot of different members of the community. We believe in a multi-generational approach. So all ages are welcome, all languages are welcome. Last year we had a soul act, and then we also had a Spanish act. We also had a host that was bilingual, so they could speak in English and then also speak in Spanish. So taking those little details into account just makes for a better event for us. And that wouldn't have been possible without those assessments and just reaching out to our partners and just being transparent that like, we need your help to make a great festival. And how can we do that? Like, what are we missing that we aren't seeing? And I thought it was really beneficial to just have transparency in our partnerships.
That's amazing. And just to keep aware of time, we've got 3 minutes left, but I do kind of want to just pick your brain a little bit more of how did you get folks to complete those assessments? Like what was your incentive of them, completing it so that you can use that data to enhance your event?
I know this is going to sound crazy, but we didn't really have an issue getting them to complete the assessments because they were invested in our festival, and they felt like a part of it. They knew that if they submitted something, that we were going to really take that into consideration, and that we were going to make changes that needed to be necessary if the group felt like, oh yeah, this is definitely something. So I think really just taking the time to show that you're invested in your partner just as much as you want them to be invested in you really made a difference for our group. And we were open to having them at every capacity be a part of the festival and planning and everything. So they felt just as invested as Austin Freenet was in the festival. And so when the time came to do the assessments, they were more than happy to do the assessments because they were invested in it and they were a part of it. And I know that's probably not the best answer you want to hear, but there really wasn't any other incentive other than, making them feel like their voices would be heard, that we cared, because we did care and we really wanted their opinions so that we can make a better festival for everybody, including them and their clients.
That is great. And that really helps our folks here feel empowered that that is a result from Jess and Jess's team delivering on her end of the partnership, on making sure that her community, got what they needed, making sure that there was a successful event, and then also building their confidence that, hey, we want to partner with you in the future. So all of that is within your control, and just showing your dedication and even just showing up, right? That's like 90% of the work, just showing up. Just put the post, draft it, submit it, it's done. You participate in Digital Inclusion Week, right? And so definitely just wanted to highlight that, Jess, that is a great answer, because the way that you showed up for your community and your event that was the buy-in. That was the so-called pizza to get them to complete the assessment. So I love that. Well, y'all, we have reached our time. Okay, and this has been so much fun. I had a blast. I hope you all did. Please give a round of applause to our part 2 panelists, and again to our panelists Molly and Anita earlier. This was so great. This is recorded, so I will share this out to the listserv as well as to all of those who have registered. Thank you again. Go ahead and check out our website for those toolkits and register your event, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. All right, y'all. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you at Digital Inclusion Week. All right, take care. Bye.
You as well.